Okay, so you have this product. How do you use it? If you check this booklet, it will recommend that you Google the following document: Star Wars Rebellion, Rise of the Empire, Actual Play Guide by Selberun. It's really helpful. There is a section there called a battle step. If you replace that whole section with this section, you know how the specific sequence of events happens in the Imbalanced Factions demo. So this is only if you play with side B, which is the Imbalanced Factions demo. I recommend finding this document and using it as reference and replacing that section here. Otherwise, you can just use it here. Now let's have a look at the actual sheet. So there is a new addition to it. It's called Battle Sequence. There is one for side A and there is one for side B. They're a little bit different. Let's go over them. So on side A, this plays like the normal game. When you start, let's say, a space combat, the first thing you do after the leaders have been assigned to the system is you choose your tactic card. Then you resolve the tactic card. Then you gather your dice. And if there's any unit that influences how much dice you have, you subtract the relevant dice from that count. In the original game, only the ion cannon has this ability. In this demo, there are other units which will expand this ability. After you gather your dice, you roll all the dice once, and then you use your leader skills to re-roll from 1 to 3 dice. After that, if there are any played tactic cards with prevent ability, here you apply this ability and prevent the hits and direct hits from the tactic card. Then you remove any damage from units in combat using the symbol of the dice and the relevant color. And after that, you then assign all the relevant damage from hits and direct hits. Finally, any units that have 0 or less than 0 health are destroyed. So this is how the normal game works for a specific combat round. Now let's have a look at side B. So the difference here is that we are not using advanced tactic cards anymore. We can always add them, but the purpose of this expansion is to allow you to play without them. So we're starting directly with gathering dice. If any units prevent you from having a specific number of dice, they'll be indicated with this icon, which is recessed, and it will have the relevant space or ground arena indicated on it to let you know where are the units being affected. And it will have a minus with the number of dice that you need to subtract, and of course there will be also the color of the specific die that you need to remove. So after you've gathered all the dice you can, you roll them as usual, and then there is a new ability which, if you have such units, they will let you flip a die to its opposite side. Flipping a die works like this. Let's say you have a blank. If you flip it, you just turn it to the exact opposite face, and so from the regular black and red dice, a blank will go to hit, and a direct hit will go to heal, and vice versa. The next ability is the leader reroll. For the Empire, this works exactly like in the normal game. You reroll from 1 to 3 dice of your choice. For the Rebels, there is a new swap ability. What this means is the Rebels can swap, let's say, a red hit for a black hit. For them to do that, they have to have rolled either the red or the black hit, and they have to have a free dice which haven't been rolled by any units in the dice pool to exchange the relevant dice. So if they are rolling all 13 dice for the initial reroll, they essentially cannot use that ability. They have to wait for some units to be destroyed before they can start swapping dice. Next is the opponent reroll and flip. So this means that after you complete your reader reroll and leader swap, there may be units your opponent have that affect the roll of your die. And they can affect them in two ways. Either they can reroll them or they can flip them. This will be indicated by the arena which is being affected. So an enemy can either affect the units in space or in ground. They could be an ability that affects both. After that, you remove the damage as usual using this symbol. Then you assign damage as usual, and you destroy units as usual. There is a new ability here called Scramble. If a unit has this icon in a recessed way in the space or ground theater, it means that you can deploy essentially such a unit from the build queue, so that unit has to be available. And this ability is called Scramble. So this concludes the reference section. Let's have a look at the individual units. And we can start off at the very beginning for side B. So the X-Wing is half of its ability to flip is shaded, which means you need 2 units to have the completed full ability. So if you have 2 X-Wings, you can flip 1 black die. For the Y-Wing, it's exactly the same, but it affects a red die. The Corellian Corvette and Home 1 Cruiser are able to reduce the number of Imperial dies that get rolled by 1 or 2 respectively, but only green or red, no black. For the U-Wing, this is a space unit. So here we see the ground background. This means that following the space combat round, where this unit survives, in the following round, which is a combat round, if there is such a round, and the Imperial player has units, the Imperial player will roll 1 less black die. For the Rebel Transport, this ability works both if the Rebel player plays second or first. In any case, after the Imperial player has rolled their dice and has used his leader ability to re-roll the dice, the Rebel player, as an opponent, can re-roll up to 2 dice of any color once. The Nebulon B frigate also reduces the dice like the Corellian Corvette and Home 1 Cruiser, but it only affects black Imperial dice in the space arena. For the Ion Cannon, it has the Scramble ability, and it can scramble 2 space triangle units, or essentially 2 fighters or Rebel transport ships. It also has its original ability, which is to reduce the number of Imperial red dice rolled in the space combat arena by 2. Here you can see, if you flip on the other side, the ability essentially is written both in text, and we are applying the new visual language to code this ability into that icon. Moving on to the ground units, the Rebel Trooper has a similar ability to the X-Wing and Y-Wing, but it does not affect its own die, it affects another red die. The Rebel Vanguard, however, is able to re-roll a full green die, is able to flip a full green die on its own. So you do not need 2 of them. Each one of them can flip 1 of its green dice if they say roll a blank. For the Airspeeder, it's able to flip either 1 red or 1 black die. For the Shield Generator, there are 3 abilities in total. It's able to flip 1 black die in the ground arena from the Imperial player, and 1 red die in the ground arena for the Imperial player. So again, this is done after the Imperial player has re-rolled their dice with their leader. In addition, at the end of the combat step, if this unit has survived, it's able to scramble 2 ground units from triangle shape. And just to remind, you can have a look at the other side. Since we are playing without advanced tactic cards, this ability to the original ability is now lost. So that's why we have new abilities for the shield generator specifically. And finally, the Golem Arms turret is able to re-roll 1 black and 1 red die of the Imperial player in the ground arena. Starting with the Imperial units now, the shield bunker has 3 icons. We can already see this is a this is a scramble icon. So at the end of the round, if this unit survives, it can scramble 2 ground triangle units. The other 2 icons are described on the other side. They essentially are coded version of its original ability. So that's why we see them here in a smaller version. So space stations in this unit cannot be destroyed. This is the left icon, and the right icon signifies that this unit enables deployment in remote system. Moving on to the Stormtrooper. Here, again, we have a half-shaded ability, meaning we need 2 Stormtroopers to fully take advantage of this ability, and that is essentially to add 1 additional black die. So if we have 1 Stormtrooper, it rolls 1 die. If we have 2, then they roll 3 black dice. For the assault tank, first thing to note is it now takes 2 triangle production units. So for example, you can produce a full tank from Kashyyyk, or you can combine 2 other systems with 1 triangle to produce 1 assault tank. Now this tank has a new scramble ability to deploy 1, let's say, Stormtrooper at the end of the round if it survives. The AT-ST is able to add another die, either green or black, choice of the Imperial player. The AT-AT has a scramble ability to deploy 1 unit, just like the assault tank, but in addition, it has 1 additional red die. So it's not 2, it's now 3 red dies for the AT-AT, and it takes 2 transport slots. The TIE Striker has the opposite ability of the U-Wing, and it can add 1 black die to the ground combat following the space combat step. So if this unit survives and the Imperial player has a ground unit, in that specific combat round, it will roll +1 die because of the TIE Striker. The Interdictor Cruiser has its original ability to block rebel units from escaping this system. If we look at the other side, we can see that this unit ability is described and the icon is attached to it. It's the same icon. The new ability of the Interdictor Cruiser is it's able to reduce the number of dice rolled by the rebel player by a full 2 dice, and that's any color, specifically in the space arena. The Death Star under construction and the Death Star share our original ability to block any Imperial units from escaping this system containing that unit. And this again is described on the other side. Imperial units in this unit system cannot retreat. We have the icon here and we have the icon here, and now we have a larger version. The new ability of the Death Star under construction is the Super Laser, and this ability means that when you essentially need to apply damage from hits and direct hits, you can first make 1 enemy capital ship health to 0, and both units have this ability. And then you can apply the hit and direct hit from any other dice you have rolled. The Death Star also has a scramble ability now, at the end of the combat round, it can deploy 2 fighters. And we are almost done. The TIE fighter has the ability to add 2 green dice to be rolled if we have 3 TIE fighters in combat. That is why it's shaded. 2/3 of the die are shaded and only 1/3 is visible, meaning we need 2 more to fully unlock this ability. The assault carrier can now scramble space fighters at the end of the round. The Star Destroyer and the Super Star Destroyer can roll 1 additional space or ground die of any color. And for the Super Star Destroyer, that number is 2. So this is again either space and ground. So both. You have 1 additional die for space and 1 additional die for ground. And here we have 2 additional die for space and 2 additional die for ground. Also, we have a new ability here, the tractor beam. And this ability essentially has been mentioned in the booklet, in that if you see this ability, essentially you read the card, the original advanced tactic card, which typically states that at the end of the combat round, if the rebel player doesn't have units and the Imperial player has a unit with this ability in the system, they can capture 1 leader. And this concludes the full overview of the Rebel and Imperial joint folded unit sheets. Hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions that are not covered here.